What is going on, constant listeners out there in the multiverse? You're listening to the Earth 16 Comics Wire podcast, and I'm your host, Brian for Earth 16. And in this episode, I'll be chatting with Camille Longley on her graphic novel, Lampblack. Let's get into this. Hello, everyone out there in the multiverse. I hope you're all having an awesome day. Summer is just around the corner, which means there's going to be a lot of comics around the corner as well. So, a lot of blockbusters. And I'm going to be doing some commentary on random comics in the next couple of weeks, leading up to summer. Now, the Superman Red and Blue series is going to continue. I'm also going to be posting up articles about it on the Daily Planet. And I'm also going to be covering Mad Cave Studios' Battle Cats in the coming weeks. And then I'm also planning on covering the Robin series as well. And I would love to cover King in Black. Marvel Comics' King in Black. And I'm planning on another special project in the works. So that's going to be coming up. And with the Earth 16 Comics Wire podcast, I'm really happy to be doing this podcast. I'm happy to be talking to creators, but I also would like to talk to fans as well. Because the purpose of the Earth 16 Comics Wire podcast is just that it's from a perspective of a fan of comic books. But I'm not only just a fan of comic books, I'm also a fan of manga and all sorts of other mediums. So, in addition to talking about comic books, I'll also be talking to fans of manga, or perhaps fans of anime, or even fans of pro wrestling. I'm into pro wrestling also. I'm an open book, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're new to this, you can definitely listen to the Earth 16 Comics Wire on Spotify. You can also listen to it on YouTube, since I have a new YouTube channel opened up right now. And if you are new to the channel, if you're listening to this on YouTube, please hit the like button to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and of course hit the bell icon for more updates. So, having said all that, when I return, I'll be speaking with Camille Longley on her Kickstarter project called Lampblack. And the amazing thing about this project is just that it's inspired by the works of Studio Ghibli, Pokemon, Zelda, and Fantastic Beast. We talk a lot about the graphic novel and the motivations behind the protagonists and the story. It's just amazing too. We talk a whole lot about world building and so much more. And I've already pledged to this project, and I'm going to post the Kickstarter link on my YouTube page as well as my Spotify page. So if you're interested in contributing to the Kickstarter or pledging, just hit that link and pledge. It's a real awesome project. So when I return, I'll be speaking with Camille Longley, the creator of Lampblack. You don't want to miss this, folks. What's going on? Are you constant listeners out there in the multiverse? You are listening to the Earth 16 Comics Wire podcast. I'm your host, Brian for Earth 16. And with me, I have Camille Longley, the
Yep,
creator of the graphic novel Black. How's it going today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, totally. Looks like this. So, according to the Kickstarter that you're doing for Lampblack, it's a fantasy horror comic in cinematic style, and it's about a girl whose paintings come to life and a deaf boy who wants to be a soldier, in a story of passion and art and war inspired by Studio Ghibli. I thought that was
Yeah,
really awesome.
yeah. Studio Ghibli has always been a huge influence for my writing. And my artist, Pablo Pepino, he's a huge Ghibli fan too. So we're both really excited about that aspect of it. And you can definitely see it in the coloration and then the character
Yeah,
design and all of that.
I do see a lot of Ghibli. When I looked at the Kickstarter and everything, I noticed that several of the ink monsters kind of look like the character from Spirited Away.
Yeah, No Face.
No
Yeah, yeah.
face,
I
yeah.
love that it has that kind of similarity.
Yeah, and especially like like also to another resemblance of the stink. I think it was like the stink spirit. I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, the Stink Spirit.
And actually, funny enough, I recently started watching more Studio Ghibli. I've only seen Howl's Moving Castle. That was like the only Ghibli work I've seen.
Oh, that's
When
my
I
favorite.
saw, right, yeah, and with Christian Bale sounding pretty much sounding similar to Batman. Funny enough,
Yeah.
yeah. And when I watched him Spirited Away, it was a really I was just like, wow, this is actually really awesome. And just with the whole I mean, with the like using like a I think it was like they were working in a sort of like a hotel of sorts or an inn,
Yeah.
and like how they trapped people in there, and then that the main character, I think it's Chichiro, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken,
Chihiro.
Chihiro had to pretty much work for her freedom and have her name taken away. It's just really, I was just like, wow. And just so many like funny, I mean, it's like a lot of humor, a lot of emotion, and that's what makes the works at Studio Ghibli so amazing. And yeah, I just became really hooked when I started watching that. Like
Yeah.
so
I
hooked.
mean, the characters are just so relatable, but the worlds are just they're so lush and bizarre. It's so interesting, but because the characters are so like common, you can really relate to them.
Absolutely. And speaking of the characters, I noticed that we got the characters Mabel, who is an artist uh,
Yeah.
from a rather unique world, and we have Sterling, who is a young deaf man who he doesn't want to be a part of his family business. He actually wants to be a soldier and serve his country, kind of be a hero. And I
Yeah,
think,
definitely.
yeah, and I find that really amazing. And especially as someone, who has a disability myself, I have high functioning autism, and being told that I couldn't do certain things. I mean, this story is really inspiring for people who are, who get labeled that way, like, oh, maybe you have this limitation, so therefore you can't do that. And I've been told that many times in my life.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's just it's one of those heartbreaking things to hear. But when you see stories like this, and a character, someone like Sterling especially, who was probably told so many times that, nah, you're deaf, the best thing you can do is this and that, it's really encouraging. And it reminds me a lot of like other stories too, where you have Captain America, who was born pretty frail and told that he
Right.
couldn't fight, but he never gave up on his dream of wanting to fight. And to him, it wasn't just fighting. It wasn't just like going out to war. It was actually fighting for to do the right thing, fighting to save people's lives,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
he's
fighting
my
against.
favorite superhero
He
for sure.
is
I love underdog stories. They're my favorite.
definitely. I love underdog stories also. Just people who inspire, like Daredevil, or even real life heroes like Jackie Robinson, who, despite the color of his skin and despite people being giving him so much heat, he still went out there and played baseball.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those stories are so inspiring. And in this world, in Lampblack, Sterling isn't barred from the military, but in the U.S., I learned this as I was researching this story. You can't actually fight if you are deaf in the U.S. So
Wow, I didn't
I
know
thought,
that.
like, yeah, and what's really crazy is that during World War One and World War Two, there were lots of soldiers that were deafened by explosions or injuries, and they were still allowed to keep contributing. But if a deaf person applies to the military, they can do other things, but they can't fight. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, and wow, I really didn't know that about like the whole how some people were not allowed to like, well, deaf people weren't allowed to fight in the armed forces. That's
Yeah.
interesting. And yeah, so that, to me, that's really inspiring. And with these characters, I feel that this story is all about purpose, and in some sense love even.
Hmm.
Like, was that your intention when creating this story, was like to give these characters like their purpose and all that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Mabel feels very called to create art. Like she has this
Yeah.
gift and she wants to use it even though it's dangerous. Like the ink has monsters in it. And so every time she uses it, she risks letting a monster escape. And there are also people who would exploit her art, which we will see in the future as the story continues, that there are people who want to use her art and the fact that she can create anything to do evil things. So she kind of sits in this place where she has this great gift, but because of the situation, I mean, it can go either way, using it for good or using it for evil, and
I
sometimes
was
she
gonna
won't
say
have a
that,
choice.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's almost like in those instances where if it's in the as long as it's in the right hands, things are okay though. But if it goes into the wrong
yeah,
hands, however, like that can get really dicey.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
That wow, that's yeah, that's total. That's really true because it's like
It's
it's almost like with great power comes great responsibility in a sense,
yeah,
and that
yeah.
you can kind of understand Mabel's reasoning of like wanting to put her art out there, and also I read from the Kickstarter too that her family's pretty much struggling and to
Oh
make
yeah,
ends
they're
meet,
super struggling.
and she feels that her art can actually help them out. But then I guess they're kind of warning her, like, maybe you might want to like kind of back off a little bit there in a sense. So I think there's a little fear as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and she realizes there's risks. But I mean, she comes from an immigrant family. They're kind of their families are outcasts because they have this magic that's really dangerous. So people don't want to be around them. And then and then when her mom loses her job, which happens in the first issue, Mabel has to decide to take her own fate in her hands and figure out how she's going to help her family, even though her mom is very against her using the magic. So there's lots of family tension and then tension in the community. So
Right. And not to put any spoilers up, but are we going to see a little bit of why her mom's really, why her mom's so apprehensive? I mean, is her mom perhaps an
oh,
artist
definitely,
herself?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, we're gonna find out for sure.
And yeah, this story is really amazing because I feel like with a lot of these characters, they, like we said, they have like, they have like a really awesome destiny laid out ahead of them. Who would you say is your favorite character?
Definitely Maple for me. I mean, I love Sterling, but I mean, as a girl, I usually like the girl characters. So also,
Yeah.
she has a pet cat made of ink, and she can basically paint anything she wants to life. So it really doesn't get cooler than that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like, a lot of these characters are relatable. I mean, I do like Mabel because, she wants to create, even though people are kind of discouraging her from doing otherwise, but it's just like, no, this is something I feel compelled to do. And I think I kind of relate to Mabel as a creative because as a creative, I feel like if I don't write or if I don't
Yeah,
do like a podcast or if I don't make anything, then, there's pretty much my world is dry. It's like, it's
yeah,
just,
definitely.
yeah, it's like nothing. And I've experienced years where I haven't done any sort of writing or any sort of creative thing. Like it was just, to me, I just did whatever, and there was like no meaning whatsoever. It felt like my life was just, I was like on a hamster on a pinwheel, and
Definitely.
it's just, yeah. So I totally get, her pain, her struggle, and it's like you can't really, you can't really substitute something that you love. I mean, and I feel like it could get kind of destructive because it actually reminds me of the movie and I think the book too, Fantastic Beast, of that one
Yeah,
guy where he tried to like hide his wizarding heritage. And I think
yeah,
my sister told me that part too, and I was like, wow. And where the more he hit it, and I think something happened to the point where there was an explosion and it killed a lot of
yeah,
people.
basically.
Yeah, and it reminded me a lot of like that, those years where I just didn't do anything, and it was like, it was like I was like a whole completely different person, and it was just kind of like, wow. So I feel like it's kind of the same with Mabel in a sense too, where it's like, yeah, there's this concern where if she does do her art, things could go a little haywire. That's the risk though, but I feel like there might be a greater risk in her not doing anything. I feel.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's just me.
No, no, definitely. I totally relate to that as a writer. I can't stop coming up with ideas and writing things out, and it's really hard not to do that.
It's really
It's hard
hard,
to
and
take a
especially,
vacation from your own creative brain.
yeah, especially even if you're in the middle of doing something, like,
Yeah,
it's like something pops up and it's just like, crap, I need to like put it on paper or it's going to go away. I'm
definitely.
like that personally, where, yeah, I get sometimes distracted and it's just like, and so like speaking of the process of the story and all that, or speaking of the story, what
Right.
was the process of finding the team to create the story of Lampblack, and how did you go about finding the creative team, like forming the creative team?
So it was first find the artist. That's the biggest component. And I had seen Pablo Pepino's work before, and I had been really impressed with it. He worked previously on Skies of Fire that I had seen on Kickstarter and backed, and I really enjoyed it. I just really love the art style that's a little bit more realistic than others. And he put so much detail and so many like little things into it. Um, I loved it. And I reached out to him and told him about this project, and he had just been finishing another project and he was super excited about it. He's a huge Ghibli fan. He said, "This is exactly the sort of direction I wanted to go in." And he just got the idea right away. He came up with so many more ideas to kind of enrich the world. And so it really was like stars aligning type of deal. And
Whoa.
actually, oh yeah.
Wow, yeah. I mean, I'm just amazed
Oh,
that it was like, it just,
yeah, it just,
yeah.
yeah. I inquired about a few other artists, but after we had a little bit of back and forth, and I was like, oh yeah, Pablo's the perfect person for this project. And he actually ended up finding the other members of the creative team, Damian Peñalba, who does the colors, and then Joel Saavedra, I think,
I love the
does the
colors.
letters. Yeah, the colors are great. And actually, all three of them are from Argentina originally. Pablo doesn't live in Argentina, but all three of them are from Argentina. And I actually lived in Argentina for a little bit, so I mean, I kind of like that aspect. I think it's really fun. So that was kind of how it all came together, and they're all really fun to work with. I really enjoy it.
I mean, yeah, I'm looking at the team right now. It looks like a really fun, it looks like you got a really amazing team. Damien Penalba, or Damian, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's Damian Peñalba.
Yeah, amazing color. I love his colors. I mean, it looks like a
Yeah,
Ghibli film, and
yeah, it really does.
let's see, yeah, and I'm looking at just like the art right now, and especially with like the one of the covers of Lampblack, and it shows Mabel walking through the city, and then like being surrounded by like these lamp monsters or these ink monsters, whatever.
Oh yeah, that's actually a poster that Herman. Oh, sorry, I forget his last name. Herman, I just call him Herman. Herman drew or painted for us. It's in watercolor. It's really, really pretty. I can't wait to hang it in my office. It's gonna look really good.
Herman Peralta,
Okay,
Casaroli.
that's what it is.
Yeah, really amazing. And like I do see some like Howl's Moving Castles references too,
Hmm.
like with the chimneys and all that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like
the
it.
styling is really beautiful.
And of course the worlds too, or no, not the worlds, the countries.
Yeah.
I really like the world building here too. To say, the country of Cariday, Jorian, Fen, and the Sea of Brentford. Like, where'd you come up with all that? Because like for me, I can't really. Whenever I create stuff, like I've tried to create stories though, but like some of the stories I created, I'd never, I tried to create places though, but I've never been there.
Yeah, actually Pablo made the map. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, it looks like the Lord of the
And
Rings.
yeah, it's really gorgeous. I love the colors he used, and the layout of the places is really cool. And actually he was like, "Okay, you need to come up with the names of the places." And so I'm really bad at picking names. So I opened up my spice cupboard and I just like started picking up spices and then coming up with a name based on the
That's amazing.
spice.
That's like Dragon Ball Z amazing. Like that's
So yeah.
amazing. Like name it after food and all their spices. I like that. I mean, it helps.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's just again, it's really awesome though, and I really like the map. I really like the names. And let's see. Another thing about Lampblack that I found really astounding was incorporating American Sign Language and the deaf culture as it
Yeah.
pertains to Sterling. And then, like I mentioned before, I have a disability. And was this story also a way to inspire other people that they can do it and that despite their limitations?
Definitely. I know for most deaf people they don't consider being deaf a disability.
Oh
Like
no.
that I've talked to, and honestly, like I'm not deaf, I'm not hard of hearing, but I I I've done some research about the deaf community, and about American Sign Language, and honestly, it's just such a beautiful language and a beautiful culture to be a part of. It's a very tight knit community,
Yeah.
and I I mean, I hope people are inspired by the story and by Sterling, but honestly, I just hope that Sterling is portrayed as just who he is. Like this is just a part of his life. It's just a part of who he is. And it's not about his deafness, but just how he interacts in the world. And we've tried to include like we have a June Ann LaForce is our ASL consultant, and so she's helping us to make sure we get the sign language right, and also reading my scripts before I give them to my artist, so that I'm portraying Sterling appropriately, so I'm not doing anything wrong or like doing something that he wouldn't do being deaf. Like towards the end of the book of the first issue, I had this page where I said, okay, and then he screams help. And she wrote a little note in there like, he would never scream help, he would just scream. And I was like, oh duh, like why would he scream help? That's not his native language.
Right.
Like he would just scream. So it's just like these little things that you don't think about. And honestly, I really love writing Sterling, and I love this aspect of ASL. And as Sterling and Mabel interact, kind of miscommunications that are going to be there, and the language barrier, I think it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, that does make for like a really, it's like a bondable moment, I feel, actually. That whole communication language barrier, in a sense. It's a
Yeah,
bondable moment for them to get to understand each other. You know,
totally.
Sterling through his sign language and Mabel through her art. And I feel
Yeah.
like, with everything that's about to unfold, I feel like they're going to actually start reaching for their destiny, for their goals. Like Sterling is going to probably become that soldier in a sense. And I feel like Mabel's going to become that artist who becomes,
Hmm.
more centered in her art.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what's, about to unfold. We're going to see how that goes. And it makes for a real awesome story, in my opinion.
Oh, thanks. I hope so.
Hey, I'm really excited about it, and just to see how you incorporate something like simple as wanting to do something, wanting to create, in Mabel's case, or in Sterling's case, wanting to be a hero.
Yeah.
But it's a hero's journey, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's one of the things I like about it. It's not necessarily like, oh, we're going to like take down a big bad or whatever. This is just more like, no, this is something we want to do. And, it's just in a more, I don't know how to say this, maybe like in a more fantasy way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very character driven story. For
There you
sure.
go. It's a very character driven story. I like that.
Yeah.
So, let's see. And so you pretty much, you have the Lampback Kickstarter, and it's already reached its goal, which is
Yeah,
amazing.
definitely. Yeah, we're so excited about that. The reception that Lampblack has received has honestly been just astounding. Pablo and I, we were like, we really hope we reach our goal. We think we will, but just the reception has just been amazing. People are really excited about it, and they've been sharing. So it's been, we're just so happy about it.
Well, you have another backer, just so you know.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, and I think it's just really amazing that, it's reached its goal. And let's see, there's a lot of pledges here. You can get the digital, and you can get like the standard issue, the ASL variant issues. That's an interesting one, with the variant cover. What is that one like, the ASL
Yeah,
variant?
so we actually worked with deaf artist Brittany Castle. She has, you can actually go to her website, which is 58creativity.com, I believe. She's a deaf graphic designer, and she specializes in ASL art. And so we had her design a cover for our campaign. And we went to her and we're like, we're thinking we're just gonna do like Lampblack in like in letters, like in sign language letters. And she was like, actually, that's not how somebody in Sterling's world would sign that. And so she ended up drawing Sterling signing black and paint, which she said was how somebody would actually say Lampblack if they were going to sign it. And so it ended up being really cool, and we're super excited about it and very privileged that we got to work with her. So that's our variant cover for this issue.
Wow, I like it. And I like how like I also like the pen how it has like Lampblack and it has like the cat underneath it.
Oh yeah, yeah. We have a couple pins for the campaign that are really cute.
That's awesome. And then like also we have like the other bundle, which is I feel like actually let me see, it's a comic store bundle.
Yeah, there's a few bundles. There's like a t-shirt bundle that has a super cool t-shirt. And then there's the art bundle that has the poster that Herman did, and then the map, which is actually it's going to be really big and it's going to be printed on wood, which is going to be super cool.
Wow.
And then we have the pins, and there are also a few original pages left of Lampblack. So there's quite a few options if you want to support the campaign.
That's awesome. And yeah, I'm looking at some more of the stuff, and I see like one where I really find interesting too is of Sterling doing, I think he's doing sign like this, and then he's doing,
Yeah, that's the ASL
yeah,
cover. So that's black. He's signing black, and then he's signing paint.
that is awesome. So, I did a little research and I noticed that you did like other stories, like I believe you did like a novel, about like the fire, I
Yeah.
think it's called Fire Sword.
Yeah, I write this other series called the Flameskin Chronicles.
The Flame Skin. I like that
Yeah.
name.
Thanks. The first book is called Fire Frost, and then there's three that have been published. The most recent was Flame Sword. It's more epic fantasy vibe, and it's sort of like Avatar firebending, but kind of twisted and a little darker.
Yeah, I
But
like
it's
Avatar.
really fun. I love fantasy. That will always be my home. And so being able to write a book with swords and armies and magic, it's honestly I love it.
And it's funny too because like my first run-in with fantasy was as a kid. It was through video games. I'll admit it.
Yeah.
And I played my first run-in with fantasy. I feel was like when I played Zelda: A Link to the
Yeah.
Past. And
Zelda, definitely.
yeah, what was your run-in with fantasy? What was your first run-in?
I'm a huge reader. I've always been a huge reader. I probably read every single fantasy book in my elementary school library. But I also, at school, I read all day. Didn't matter what we were doing in class. Math, I had my book in my lap, reading while the teacher is doing whatever. And then as soon as I got home, it was Ocarina of Time and Pokemon on the Game
Oh yeah,
Boy
Pokemon.
and
I remember
all
Ocarina
of
of
that.
Time.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what really got me hooked. And then of course playing the Final Fantasy games, and then I read a
Yeah.
lot of Harry Potter.
Yep, Harry Potter.
I read some Brian
Aragon was one of
Jacques.
my favorites when I
Wow.
was a kid.
What was one of your favorites as a kid?
Aragon with dragons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I read some Redwall with Brian Jacques.
Oh yeah, Brian
Yeah.
or Redwall. Yeah, I heard they're gonna make a Netflix or Amazon series or something.
Oh really?
I heard it's cut. They're gonna adapt it, so I'm pretty excited. I loved that as a kid. That
That's
was so good. I think I read every single book, and they're like,
wow. Yeah, I'm probably gonna be watching that show, and like, yeah, because those stories are cool. And another one I
yeah.
read was Prelude the Bold. I don't know if you heard of that one.
No, I haven't.
No, it was like a book I read, and I think it was about like a rabbit, I think. And was that a rabbit? I don't remember, but it was in the spirit of Brian Jacques, and it was this young, this animal who just decided to like he's an average Joe, if you will, and then he just becomes a hero throughout the story. And like
Yeah.
going back to this, the underdogs. I love stories like that, and I think
Yeah.
fantasy is like one of those stories where the unexpected becomes like
Yeah.
it becomes great. And I feel like we see
Right.
that with characters like Frodo from Lord of the Rings. We see it with Link in Zelda,
Yeah.
and we're going to see it with Mabel and Sterling.
Yeah, they're very much average people that are just they have these destinies that they just kind of grow into.
Yeah, and that's why I love about those stories, and just also overcoming adversity too. That's a
Yeah.
huge one for me. And
Yeah,
like just
definitely.
telling readers, inspiring them that no matter your limitations, you can still achieve your goals. And even like My Hero Academia, that's another one
Yeah.
that's another story I love. I mean, I'm still behind a couple episodes, but just this kid wanting to become a superhero. And
I love that show. It's so good.
yeah, I love that show. And then like, and especially like All Might telling him, Ezekiel Midoriya, even you can become a hero. And I was just like,
Yeah.
whoa. you know
Yeah. Yeah.
but so that's I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're good.
So yeah, I mean, stuff like that, and so you got into reading. And did you also, so in addition to Flameskin, do you have any other like projects coming up in the future?
Actually, so once Lampblack is done and once the Kickstarter's over, it's going to be on Indiegogo, so people can still order it. But once it's done on Kickstarter, I'm going to be launching my next book, which is a novel, and it's called Talons and Teeth.
Oh
And
wow.
it's yeah, I'm very busy. It's a story with dragons. It's kind of a rewrite of history. So it's set during World War One. And the main character, Amelie, is a French witch who goes to the Isle of Dragons as a spy. She's sent as a bride so that to like appease the dragons and make peace with them. But France actually wants to invade the Isle of Dragons. And so she's sent as a spy to bring them down. So it's really
Wow.
fun. There's dragon riding, there's sharpshooting,
I
there's
like dragons.
yeah, it should be really, really fun. So I'm really stoked about it. So that'll be later in May probably is when it'll launch.
Wow, I'd be looking forward to that one. And what's it called
Yeah,
again?
it's called Talons and Teeth.
Talons and Teeth. I mean,
Yeah.
probably it sounds like a story that my sister might like too, because she's kind of into that stuff. Like with witches and tarot.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and the amazing thing about these stories, I want to, that me and my sister talk a lot about this stuff. And the amazing thing about these stories is just that as how can I say this? As magical as they are, or as fictional as they are, they're actually pretty real. There's some real truth
Yeah.
to these stories. And I say this a lot in my podcast, like there are some deep truths into them, even though some you say, oh, it's just a children's book. I'm like, yeah, it may be a children's book though, but there is some valuable wisdom in that children's book.
Oh yeah, definitely. And
Like
I've
there's
definitely seen that looking back at like I don't you don't really see it when you're in the middle of creating something. But after I finished a book, I kind of look back at the themes and I'm like, wow, I didn't realize I thought I was writing a story about epic battles and like fire magic, but actually I was writing a story about why we hate people that are different from us. That was what it was really about.
wow,
And
yeah.
so anyways, it's really cool to be part of the creative process and bring something to life. And I hope my stories aren't just magic, even though I love that. I hope that they inspire people. So
And they do. I mean, this is a really inspiring story. I mean, I'm totally hooked.
thanks.
So, we're pretty much going to be wrapping up, and I just wanted to ask you, what do you hope for people to get out of Lampblack?
um I really want people, I feel like the art is really transportive and I hope that it becomes a vehicle to allow people to go on this journey with Sterling and Maple. And kind of like what we talked about, that they have these dreams that they're going to fulfill, or they're going to find a way to better their situations and make their world a better place. Even if their worldview right now is just focused on their family and on themselves, their worldview has to broaden. I mean, it's a coming of age story, so they're going to leave home on these journeys and kind of see the world, and they're going to have an impact on it. I think every person can have an impact on the world, and so I hope that it inspires everyone to, take that step to go on their own personal journey.
I really like that. I mean, especially, something so simple can actually make a huge difference in the world. Like I love stories like that. And just, I mean, I'm pretty sure that that's what's going to make Lampback really amazing. I really do.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, no problem. It's my pleasure. And I was going to ask you too, where can we find you on social media?
I am on all, like, in quotation marks, on all the platforms, but I'm really only active on Instagram. So you can check me out at Camille Longley. That's CamilleLongley. That's Instagram. And then, sorry, Longley is really hard to spell, so I spell it out.
It's
And
like my
then,
last name.
oh yeah, it's hard when you have an uncommon, I mean, at least in your country. But we also have lampblack.comic is the Lamp official Instagram or Lampblack Instagram account. So either of those places is where we're at.
And it looks like also too that the Kickstarter has about 13 days, so but you're already beyond your goal.
Yeah, we're actually working towards a really super cool stretch goal, which is going to be Paolo's going to draw some extra sketches, and we'll be able to put the map in the book. And then I'm also going to write some like lore and sort of like some background behind the magic type of stuff. So if we reach that stretch goal, then we'll be able to do that, and we're really excited about it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited for Lampblack, and looks like it's going to come out like around the summer. Is it?
Yeah, the books should ship out in September, hopefully.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm totally looking forward to it. Well, thank you so much, Camille, for being on the Earth 60 Comics Farm
Yeah, of
podcast.
course.
And yeah, so I say people check out the Kickstarter. You still have time to back it up. It's really going hot right now, and looks like a really awesome story. And yeah, once again, Camille, thank you for being on.
Yeah, of
And
course,
I
anytime.
hope to have you on again in the future to talk
Sure,
about your future
anytime. Just
work.
let me know.
We'll do. And thank you so much for listening, everyone. And as I always say, constant listeners, stay ever so awesome. This is Brian of Earth 16 and Camille signing out. Okay.